Hello! So I made that TBR video back in May talking about how whenever I bought new books, I pretty much needed to read them right away. And I really meant in the month that I bought them, but it's taken a couple more. I'm not behind on my TBR. I still am down to a completely manageable size, but these are just supposed to be read in a month and they weren't. But whenever I bought these books, I was like, wait a minute, all of these are new releases. And I didn't realize that whenever I bought two of them. I had to wait until I got home and ice is falling. One of these is not technically a new release, but I'll explain it. But in July, I bought Senseless by Ronald Malfi, Black Woods and Blue Sky by Eowyn Ivey, and Swordheart by Kingfisher. Now, this one is obviously the one that wasn't released this year, but it was re-released in this edition, this hardback. And I remember I got an email from Barnes & Noble earlier this year. It was just like, Kingfisher's new romantasy or whatever. I was just like, that's not new. And then even the person at the store that I bought it from was acting like it was a new book, which is like, oh, it's really different from all of her other ones. So that's why I went ahead and included it in this new release video. And then in August, after I finished Heartless Hunter, I went and bought Rebel Witch, which is also a new release. So before I got this, all of these three authors I've considered favorite authors of mine in the past. I just discovered Ronald Malfi this year, but he seems to be on the way with the other two books that I read. And then Kingfisher, I have 7 of her books on my shelf. And then Eowyn Ivey, I have her 2 other novels that she's written. And this is her 3rd one, and it's like 9 years later after To the Bright Edge of the World. I turned off the air conditioner so that things would be quiet, and now the fridge won't shut up. And then Rebel Witch, I've only read Heartless Hunter otherwise by Kristin Ciccarelli. And so I wouldn't really call her a favorite author or anything, but I was looking forward to all of these books. So now I have read all of them, and I want you guys to guess which 2 I loved and which 2 I hated. Leave your guesses down below. Pause this video, or I'll just give you like 5 seconds. And let's get started. My goodness, it's hot. I need to escape to Alaska. I didn't intend to make a stupid joke. It actually is hot. And then I was like, wait, this is set in Alaska. And I guess it's summertime in Alaska because it's the time of year where the sun doesn't set. I'm talking about in the book. It's obviously summer in Alaska right now. So this is Eowyn Ivey's new book. I don't think she's released anything since To the Bright Edge of the World. And I read that in 2022. And I don't even think it was a new release then. So she definitely takes her time with her books. So The Snow Child and To the Bright Edge of the World, I gave both of those 5 stars. This one does not seem to be heading in that direction, unfortunately. But hey, for all of you women out there that choose the bear over men, you might enjoy this. So this is about a woman named Birdie. She's a single mother. Her daughter is about 6 years old, named Emmeline, and she works at a bar/lodge in town. And the book starts off with her going out to I guess fish and whatever else, and she leaves her daughter behind because she's asleep. And whenever her daughter wakes up, she freaks out and she goes to find her and gets lost in the woods. And this man named Arthur finds her and brings her back home, and there's been kind of a romance developing between them, a very strange one. It's not one that I particularly like, but I don't think the point of the book is the romance. It's a means to get to where we are currently in the book. But part 1 is just surrounding Birdie and Arthur's courtship in a way. And now she has gone to live with them way deep in the woods, away from everything else. And the readers obviously know what's happening with Arthur right now, but Birdie has no idea. So I guess we're gonna see what comes of that. Right now, I just don't really like it. I don't like Birdie. I don't like her at all. I actually instantly didn't like her. Like, wake your kid up for a second and tell her that you're gonna go fish or whatever. And she's just the type of woman that's just like, oh, all men are sleaze bags. And so like this one guy comes in and like doesn't hit on her. She's just like, oh my gosh, I want to get into his pants now. And she forces herself on Arthur at one point. I was just like, are we supposed to like celebrate like girl power with this? Because no. But anyway, now she and Emmeline are living in a very secluded cabin with Arthur, and things are already kind of starting to fall apart. Arthur has just yelled at Emmeline for getting too close to a hole, which I'm going to assume is some kind of den. And Birdie is still none the wiser. So I would really like to try to finish this today. I'm gonna go dash for a couple of hours and listen to the audiobook, and I will update you once I'm through part 2. Hello, I am sitting on my balcony with Philip. There he is, isn't he cute? So I did not finish this. Man, how do people film in public? I'm on my balcony and like there's still too many people around. So anyway, I did not finish this last night. I got to part 3 though, which means I have less than 60 pages left. And I decided to look on Goodreads to see what other people were saying. And one of the comments said that this was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, or at least it was pitched that way. And if I had known that it was pitched that way going in, I'd be far more disappointed in this. Oh, you need to get out of the sun. Understandable. Yep, you just need to get out of the sun. Yeah, anyway, if this is supposed to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling, far miss. But because of that, now I have to include this in another video that I'm doing, so you'll see my review of this book twice, I guess. So something else that I forgot to bring up last night is that Birdie is kind of like Chris McCandless to me. If you don't know who Chris McCandless is, Into the Wild is based off of his life, and I had to read that in high school, and I was just like, this guy is freaking stupid, and he's like really hateful and like very self-centered, and I feel really bad for saying stuff like that because like he was a real guy. But Birdie is essentially the female version of Chris McCandless. On top of that, she's an absolutely terrible mother. And here, hold on. So the inside flap, I think, yeah, it says Black Woods, Blue Sky is a novel with life and death stakes, which that's true, about the love between a mother and daughter. Where? Maybe Emmeline loves her mom, but I don't see a lot of evidence of Birdie actually loving Emmeline. She has like a line in this where she's like happy to be away from society and no one's like side-eyeing her choices. I was like, woman, no one would side-eye your choices if you made good choices. You deserve to have your choices side-eyed because you make bad decisions. And she also had this whole scene whenever she was upset or jealous of Arthur being able to just go away all the time for days on end. And she was just like, you don't understand, like I want to not be accountable to anybody or responsible for anybody. And she was just like, I mean, I love my daughter, but I don't necessarily want to be free of her. I just want to be free of having to think about her. I was just like, that's the same thing, woman. Don't even try with me. Man, if I'm this angry, like, and I'm not a mom, just imagine like if I do become a mom someday, I'd be like even harder on her case. But I do find it interesting that this is kind of turned into a fantastical version of domestic abuse, because Birdie did straight up have a line like, oh, he didn't mean it. And now I'm in part 3 and there has been a time jump. So I guess we'll see how I'm feeling about all of this once I'm done. Well, I finished it and I'm very disappointed. So I have a stack of books right here that I pulled off my shelves just to talk about this one. The first 2 are to show how much of a general fan I usually am of Eowyn Ivey. The Snow Child and To the Bright Edge of the World. I gave both of these 5 stars. And this one was my second favorite read of 2022, right behind Harry Potter. And I feel like not a lot of people know about this book because this is the one that circulates on BookTube, or at least did circulate whenever I first started my channel. And I think I'm the only one that's ever talked about this, so I just want to advertise it. To the Bright Edge of the World. It's an epistolary novel surrounding Colonel Forrester going into the like untamed territory and unmapped territory of Alaska, and then we like go back to his wife at home and like everything that's happening there, and she's pregnant. And then that's framed by people in modern day that are trying to set up an exhibit involving their journey. So I think this one doesn't really get talked about alongside this one because this one's magical realism and this one is not. It's just straight up historical fiction. So I think people are hearing about this one and thinking it's going to be more like this because of the magical realism element. This did magical realism well. This one did not. The only fantastical part of this is that our love interest, Father Arthur character shapeshifts into a bear for whatever reason. We don't know why. I think it's tied to some Native American or Yukon Aboriginal folklore that's just not really explored, explained, anything like that. And the other book I grabbed off my shelves is The Great Alone, because I feel like these are kind of telling the same story, but The Great Alone just does it a lot better. They're both about domestic abuse with a child that has to deal with the trauma of that, set in the wilds of Alaska. But where this one says that it is about the love between a mother and daughter, this one actually does that. Because Cora, I think her name is in this, it's like, yep, Cora. Cora actually does love her daughter and gets her out of the situation. And Birdie is neglectful from the first chapter. And again, I really want to reiterate that I guess like she's supposed to be the one that's in an abusive relationship, but during their courtship, she's the one that tried to force him to have sex. So, and whenever he like got dressed really quick and left the room and they hadn't done anything yet, she got mad at him and was like outside, like wrapped him in a blanket yelling at him. It's just like, woman, cannot stand Birdie. Also, if you're gonna do a story about domestic abuse, don't, here, I found a Goodreads review last night that pretty much explains perfectly everything that I had a problem with in this, which makes me think that I need to rate this a 1 star, but like, it's Eowyn Ivey and she still like has really good prose, and I thought Emmeline was a great character. But everything that this 1-star review said, I agree with. But she included this quote from Eowyn Ivey. Okay, so this is about the Beauty and the Beast aspect of the story, supposedly. For Christmas in 1980, my grandparents sent me a beautiful copy of Beauty and the Beast illustrated by Mercer Mayer. I was 7 years old at the time, and more than 4 decades later, I still have that copy. There was something about the story that haunted me even then, something that felt familiar but also not quite true. Over the years, I've collected many different versions of this shape-shifting story, including East of the Sun, West of the Moon, The Lady and the Lion, and The Brown Bear of Norway. Back in 2016 or so, I realized that they held the key to the novel I wanted to write. Early on, I described Blackwood's Blue Sky as a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but that's not quite accurate. Instead, I was wrestling with the fairy tale, interrogating it as I tried to get at the truth. Growing up, I learned that love was both incredibly powerful and utterly powerless. Fairy tales told me that if a woman was beautiful and virtuous enough, she could break the spell that tortured a man. As a little girl, I witnessed the dangerous fallacy of this idea. Blackwood's Blue Sky is about the kind of extraordinary and troubled love affair you read in these fairy tales, but it's also my attempt to hold it accountable. And perhaps more importantly, I wanted to show how people's choices ripple through time. At the very heart of Blackwood's Blue Sky is Emmeline, the 6-year-old girl who has little autonomy but will be forever changed by the choices of the adults in her life. I wrote into the darkest fears and most magical memories of my childhood growing up in Alaska, and for me personally, Blackwood's Blue Sky is the most important story I've ever told. It's incredible to have it finally out in the world. So I'm just gonna echo Marquis' complaints here. I will link this review in the description because it's very long. When I saw that, I thought, oh my goodness, not again. Not again, because once more I had stumbled upon an author who claims to be a fan / obsessed with Beauty and the Beast, and yet utterly and completely misunderstands it and its message, if they even understand it at all in the first place. Let's list the number of wrong things about Beauty and the Beast Ivey says in that post. A, the shape-shifting story. Sorry, Miss Ivey, but if you declare yourself obsessed with the mayor's version, a retelling by the way, in case you didn't know, and come up with the conclusion that B&B is a shape-shifting story, I have to seriously question your analytical ability. Skipping ahead, fairy tales told me that if a woman was beautiful and virtuous enough, she could break the spell that tortured a man. Lol. Ah, yes, that's exactly what the ignoramuses out there say Beauty and the Beast is about. Never taking into account that this I can fix him bad boy redeemed by good girl trope has nothing to do with Beauty and the Beast and wasn't originated by it or its variants. It goes on to talk a little bit more about how it fails as a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, which I agree with, and more about how the plot just falls through. Because she's talking about like holding the beast accountable for domestic abuse, and no, you did not, because you took away his autonomy too. Because whenever he was a bear, like, he's just a bear. He's not a human in bear form. He's just a bear. He has bear thoughts. He has a bear's reasoning. He's purely an animal. So he doesn't have like any idea. Like, Arthur as a bear has no idea what he's doing. He's just a bear. So his punishment in the book feels wrong because he was a bear. Now, he does make some mistakes, like, as a human, but like he's still a human that, like, is definitely very developmentally behind. He speaks just in the present tense. And then this book just kind of ends. And I was just like, is that really it? And I thought about like how I would structure this to properly tell the story that she wants to tell. Because once you read it, it's clear that Emmeline's the main character, but that's not clear for the first 100 pages of the book. And if this were made into a movie, I think what they would do would be to take the last part, whenever Emmeline's grown up, and have her like going back to Alaska to deal with everything, and then just like splicing in the events of the story from there. I think that'd be a better way to structure this, because to start off with, it really seems like Birdie's the main character, and she's not, but she dominates so much of the page time, and she's such a superficial character, like not a lot of nuance. She's just a woman that wants to be a free spirit and like live in the wild or whatever, but like this kid is tying her down, and she's like, well, I love my daughter, but I don't want to be accountable for anything. I'm tired of people judging me. The only perspectives that mattered in this were Emmeline's and Warren's, and you could have made this 150-page novel by doing that. Another thing is that Arthur should not have been a bear. I think that the bear element should have come in from Emmeline, and her like trying to deal with trauma as her making her think that she's seeing Arthur as a bear. I think that would have been a lot better route to take with this, because then you could still have the magical realism element of this while still holding Arthur accountable if you're trying to make this a domestic abuse story. I'll go ahead and start talking about the good points of this. I still like Eowyn Ivey's prose and her painting the Alaskan landscape, and Emmeline as a child, like, she definitely sounds like a child, and I really appreciated that. Like, let me just read you one of the things she says. What do you like about being here? I love our nightgowns. They are very, very pretty. And I like the window and the TV and the teapot and my cup and the actually, I don't like the teapot because sometimes it burns. Like, that made me think of this clip from Kindergarten Cop.
On computers, and he's the boss of his company. And he has a mustache and a beard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't have that much hair, and his head is so big that he can't wear any hats.
Very much felt like a real 6-year-old. Emmeline's characterization was really solid in this. I don't think her trauma was adequately dealt with at the end. The kid, Emmeline, was painted really well. I just want to get rid of it. I don't know if it's a 1-star or a 2-star, so it's one of those two. Well, I have moved on to Rebel Witch, and right now I really hate it. Honestly, I got 3 chapters in before I decided that this is probably going to be mostly an audiobook read just to help me get through it faster. So, I mean, we ended Heartless Hunter at a point where Gideon really hates Rune, and then Rune decided to side with the enemy for now. She has decided to throw in her lot with Cressida because she thinks that Cressida is the lesser of 2 evils, which highly disagree. What the heck is that? Oh, I parked by the car wash. I should have realized that. At the beginning of this, it's roughly 2 months later, and I just kind of felt like we were dropped in a completely different location, which makes a little bit of sense, but also there's just like a whole like prince here that Rune is now courting in order to get his army. And she's already had a scene with Gideon, and she left the room, meaning that Cressida was going to be in there with him, with just like one of her henchmen. So she knows the history there, and she just left him. And I just don't think I can forgive that in this romance. Like, if we're supposed to be rooting for them, I think that ship has sailed for me. I was already having a really hard time with it at the end of Heartless Hunter, but like, it's still more understandable from Gideon's side, but Rune literally left him in a room with his sexual assaulter. She's trying to be like, but he tried to kill you. I don't care. I do not care. And she said something along the lines of, if I did go in there and tried to fight Cressida, he would still try to kill me. Like, no, he would not. If you actually went in there and stood up against Cressida for him, I really think he would completely change his mind about you, and like, he might be really confused for a little bit, but he would not kill you. And I just, I'm already just thoroughly so annoyed with this. Right now I have it spaced out to finish in 3 days because there's 3 parts. We're just gonna see. But enemies to lovers sounds like a fun trope, but it feels so forced, and tropes should exist for the story, not the other way around. In this case, the story exists for the trope to play out. And I'm really annoyed. I need to stop and turn my car on because I'm getting heated in multiple ways. Oh my gosh, I just told this witch to stop thinking with her vagina. See, this is part of the problem that I have with romantasy, because honestly, it seems like a genre that I should like, because I'm always down for like a really powerful side romance. But what romantasy has turned out to be is romance with higher stakes, basically. The problem I have with this is that whenever you're trying to focus mainly on romance and there's other stuff going on, it feels out of place. Like, let me go ahead and give Divine Rivals as an example that did it perfectly, balanced the fantasy aspect and romance perfectly. And then let me bring up something like Soulless, which I also enjoyed, but our main character in that was trying to save her love interest from prison, and before they left the prison cell, they had sex. I was just like, you realize the situation you're in, right? Like you have stuff that you need to do before you do that. And now what's happening here is, I already said that I don't know if I can forgive Rune for leaving Gideon with Cressida. And she's like trying to save him right now, but the damage has already been done in my eyes. But anyway, she walked in after Cressida's already made some advances on Gideon. And like, she's already like slashed his shirt open and had his like jeans undone, or pants, whatever he was wearing. And so when Rune finally is able to distract her and get her away from him, whenever she walks in, he's like on the floor on his knees because he's like under a spell. And the first thought that comes through her mind is, oh, like thinking about him is not the same as like really seeing him. He's still like so hot. I'm just like, girl, he's just been nearly sexually assaulted and is like under a spell right now. Like, that should not be the first thing that comes through your mind. Not that she knew exactly what happened, but whenever she saw that his shirt was open, that should have been a good indication of what was happening. Anyway, here's Philip. Oh, don't pee right now. Okay, let me get back to this. Well, they did it. The thing has been said that I was hoping, since it didn't get said in the first book, that we had avoided it in the series, but we did not. He's basically explaining why now it couldn't have ever been Alex, because Alex just saw her as a girl or something and just wanted to protect her and yada yada yada. And she's like, and I couldn't have settled down and had like a simple safe life. I need danger and blah blah blah. Like, shut the frick up. I need to not throw this because I am probably going to be selling it back to half price. You're literally telling me that like all you're feeling with Gideon is this like dangerous situation, like, oh, he's my enemy, he wants me dead, or maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, I don't really know, it's fun guessing. Like, what do you even mean? And the thing is, that's not always life, and you need security, you need safety, and like, what are you gonna do? Like, whenever this war is over and like whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen. Like, what are you gonna do after that? What happens whenever he's no longer on the other side of the war? Like, are things still gonna be exciting? Like, you have to make things exciting for yourself, but not... I don't know. I'm tempted to read the last 2 chapters because I saw some reviews that said like enemies to lovers to question mark. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen at the end because of that. And just because I don't want to bother anymore, I really think I'm about to DNF this. And I'm so disappointed. I said in the video earlier this year that I felt like I was about to become obsessed with Heartless Hunter, but it never fully went into it. And I knew I had my problems with it. I was still just excited to see where it was gonna go. And now I'm just like, I don't know, this entire premise, even though it's supposed to be based off the Scarlet Pimpernel, just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. I don't know, let me read the last 2 chapters and then I will decide if I actually want to continue this. Read the last about 3 chapters. It wasn't anything special that that person was alluding to, I guess. I think, unfortunately, this is going to be a DNF. I just can't. I can't. I made it 150 pages in, and that's enough for me. Well, it has been overcast and gloomy all week, which makes this read pretty fitting. We have a horror, thriller, noir type book. This is my 3rd book that I read by Ronald Malfi, Senseless. And right now it's leaning more towards thriller, although it's still definitely got the atmosphere of a horror. And there are 3 separate plot lines in this, and 2 of them I can see how they're going to overlap, but the 3rd one feels like such an outlier right now, and I'm curious what it has to do with the rest of the story. So right now I'm 2 parts in. That is 179 pages. So first part, I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the different plot lines. There's 5 chapters. First chapter follows Bill Rennie, who is a detective who lost his wife to cancer about a year and a half before the start of this book. And he investigated a murder like a year prior. And now there's another murder in present day that is looking very similar to that one. See this girl on the cover? So I didn't notice some things at first, and then I was like, oh wait, she doesn't have a nose. And then I was like, oh wait, her eyes are gouged out. Oh wait, she has no fingers. So first chapter, we follow Bill and see this murder to start off with. And then second chapter, we are following, oh, what's her name? Maureen. And she is a writer that is marrying this screenwriter, and they're having some kind of engagement party, and his son crashes it, and his son is a little creep and just kind of crashes the party. Third chapter, we go back to Bill and his relationship with the husband of the woman that was murdered in the previous year. And then fourth chapter, we go back to Maureen, who was having a conversation with her fiance's son's friend, and he thinks that he had something to do with the murder. So I can see how those two storylines might connect, even if he's not the one that did it. Right now, I really don't know what's going on. And then the 5th chapter, we bring in the 3rd side plot, which follows a human fly named Toby. And I was thinking that this was like one of those like death-defying people that like scaled buildings or whatever. But this guy actually seems to think that he's a fly, and he talks like a fly, and he is tied up with this person named Spider, and he keeps talking about like he needs to not be in the spider's web anymore. Flies can't be there. And so like all of that's been really strange. And then he goes to this nightclub where he like gets enchanted by this woman and buys her a drink, and then she bites him on the neck. So we're led to think that she is some kind of vampire. So I'm just like, how is that going to tie into the rest of this? I have no idea. I'm so confused. And the second part just followed the events of the murder from the previous year. And now we're getting to the 3rd part, which is called Hollywood Vampires. So I guess we're finally going to find out what the heck is all the fly and spider and vampire stuff, because I just don't know how it's going to tie in. But right now I'm really enjoying this, so we'll see where it goes. Okay, y'all. I don't know what is happening in this. I just finished part 3. Definitely the longest section of the book. I think it was nearly 200 pages, and I only have 80 pages left. I'm still not sure how Toby's storyline is going to connect to the other two. Like, there's only been one little thing that just now happened that's just like, okay, that is related to the murder somehow, but what is happening? So the vampire aspect of this was really making me think of Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay, because the vampires over there were more representative of mental illness, and that's kind of the same feel over here up until whatever just happened. It's still tied up with mental illness. I just don't know how much of what just happened was real. But obviously some of the part that could be hallucination is the part that is related to the murder. So I just don't know. I have no idea where this is going, and I have 80 pages left. I am wondering if it's going to be kind of like Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. That book was just a bunch of random plots and people in different places that are being affected by the same events. Like, there's one wildfire that is affecting like a bunch of different people, and then there's a perverted priest that a lot of these people have encountered. And so everything just kind of ties together in that way, and I'm wondering if that's the kind of thing that we're gonna get over here. Like, none of the people that we're following are actually the ones that did the murder, but they all have something to do with the murder, if that makes sense. There's also a story that Maureen is writing that is kind of emphasizing the theme of things reflecting back on yourself, and that's what the characters are all kind of going through. So I might go more into detail about that once I'm done, but I'm going to try to finish the rest of this tonight. Like I said, 80 pages. Let's get through it and figure out what the heck is going on. I don't know if it's because it's 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not sure what just happened. I'm done with it, and I'm just like, wait, okay. The title has taken on a whole new meaning. It was like, I don't even like know what to say. I'm trying to process. I might need to look up like who the murderer was. Yeah, I just, My brain's just gone. I don't know. If I have more to say, if I figure out anything, I will let you know. Well, I better talk about this last book before I just finish it because I'm having such a good time with it. It's Swordheart. I am halfway through, just about, and I'm enjoying the crap out of this. I don't know why it's taken me so long to get to another T. Kingfisher. I haven't read any of her books this year, and whenever I've read 7 over the last 2, I think, that's just entirely too long, especially whenever I know I want to read all of her books. So this story opens up with a woman named Hala, who her great uncle has just died and left her a really sizable inheritance, and his family is basically trying to take it from her, and they've imprisoned her until she agrees to marry her cousin Alver, or Alver, however you say it. And so she makes the decision to kill herself, and she finds a sword on the wall, and she's like, yeah, I guess that'll work. And then whenever she draws it, a man comes out. His name is Sarkis. He has been entrapped in this sword for a long time. It was his choice, but there's still a lot of mystery behind all of that, and I'm very curious as to what that mystery is because I think it's going to be the main drama of this book. But because Hala drew the sword, she is now the wielder and he has to protect her. But their dynamic has just been so fun. At one point she started rambling about dragons and he's sitting there trying to figure out like what exactly he actually needs to be doing, and she's just sitting there talking about dragons, and she just incessantly asks questions and he gets really annoyed. But then at one point they start developing feelings for each other, and I will say that other than Bryony and Roses, most of the romances in the T. Kingfisher books I've read have been very, very subtle, and there have been other things going on in the plot, and then towards the end she's just like, oh yeah, this was developing too. It's just like, oh yeah, I see that. But usually with the romances I'm just like, oh that's cute, but like, yeah, whatever. Don't hate it, but probably won't ever think of it again. This, I'm loving the romance. Sarkis helped Hala escape, and they are on the run, and she has recruited people to help her make sure she gets her inheritance. And amidst all of that, their dynamic is changing, their banter is top tier, and I'm just having so much fun with this. Hopefully this stays at a 5-star, because right now it is, and I'm halfway through. But I also feel like I just really relate to Hala in some ways. Like whenever I just start really thinking about things, but then I'll say something and everyone's just like, what on earth are you thinking about over there? And not Hala, Sarkis can die, but then he'll just go back in the sword and heal. So he's basically immortal. And so Hala's like trying to parse that out, and she's just like, I mean, like, he said he's immortal, but I wonder if like him getting beheaded, like like that's, I don't know if that's just a mortal wound or not. And she's like going through this entire process, and then while he's trying to fight this mercenary, she's just like, is beheading just a mortal wound? And I just feel like that would be me. So anyway, I'm done talking because I want to get back to this. All right, I finished this towards the beginning of the week. 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It did start to kind of lag maybe towards the end, but I just have so much fun with T. Kingfisher's books, and usually I don't even care if it ends up being a 5-star because I still enjoy myself. The only Kingfisher that I've read that I liked more than this one is Bryony and Roses. So I think this is the realm of T. Kingfisher that I need to chill in for a while. I really need to get to Paladin's Grace and that series. I think it's in the same world as this because there were some paladins that showed up in this. And I might just start at the beginning of her works and then just read from there. I will go ahead and read the third one that's coming out in the What Moves the Dead series this month, at the end of this month. What Stalks the Deep, that's what it's called. And then I feel like I want to read Hemlock and Silver before the year is over, since it's a new release. But we'll just see what happens. I know that I do eventually want to just go from the beginning and read them all in a row. But as for Swordheart, total win. So if you guessed if these were the two that I would hate, you were correct. And if anyone else was as surprised that I hated an Eowyn Ivey book as much as I was, yeah, you're right. I'm right there with you. I will still read her next book whenever it comes out, but since this one took 9 years to be published and then it sucked, who knows when that's gonna be. And as for Swordheart, I finished this month, and so it did not end up in my top 5 of the second third of the year video that will be going up after this one. But if I had read it in August, it 100% would be there. Oh, and then one more thing about Senseless. I started looking up stuff online afterwards, and I only found a couple of people who interpreted the ending like I did. So I don't know if what I'm thinking is right. So this is the rare thriller that is rereadable. I think most books, if you really like them, are rereadable, but I think even by people that read a lot of thrillers and are just like, no, like it's a one and done genre, this one, I do not think so. So anyway, that is it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you later.